You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by Nax. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Convenience has traditionally been defined as easy as a right-hand turn. Stores are there on your ride, but sometimes, and we've all done this, you pause because there's something that you'd like to see more welcoming about the store, and then you go on and you pick the next store. So today, let's talk about how some companies are making their stores more welcoming to get you inside the store, and then you get to see those great products, the great customer service, and just have a great experience. And today, I'm joined by Akhtar Hussain, who is Director of Refined Fuels Marketing with CHS, to talk about the company's Lift initiative and how CHS's brand, Cenex, plans to elevate the retail image across its almost 1,500 locally owned and operated C-stores. So Akhtar, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jeff.
Let's start out with the basics because people may not know. You want to tell us about CHS and Cenex, how they operate together, and what is your role in that company?
Sure. Yeah. CHS is the nation's largest farmer-owned cooperative. They're involved in many different facets of agriculture, and they own 2 refineries, and they also own the Cenex brand. And so the Cenex brand has a whole suite of energy products, including lubricants, refined fuels, and propane. But my role specifically at Cenex is within refined fuels, and I am the director of marketing there. So I work with the Cenex retail brand first and foremost. And so the Cenex footprint is about 1,450 stores throughout 19 states, most heavily centered in the Midwest and through the Pacific Northwest.
The idea that it's, you mentioned farmers, that's to a lot of companies, that's in their roots. Cumberland farms, Swiss farms, Wawa was a dairy before they were convenience stores. So I like the connection when we talk about farmers and convenience stores because, it's about food. It's about, working hard in a community. Now, related to that is the whole initiative that Cenex is undergoing right now called Lift, and that's all capital letters, LIFT. Can you talk about that initiative? Because at the beginning, I mentioned the idea of being welcoming. How do you appeal to customers to get them to come to your stores? And the first thing you got to do is when they're driving by at 30 to 60 miles an hour, it's inviting. It pulls you in, and then the rest just sells itself, hopefully.
That's correct. Yeah. And, we've gone through some, with the Cenex brand, we've been continually attempting to modernize that brand for consumers and continue to have a really relevant C-store brand that meets the needs of the communities that we serve. And so as it relates to the Lift initiative, it really goes with exactly with what you were saying is we had the opportunity to make our stores more attractive and more inviting from the Forecourt perspective. And as we'll talk a little bit more about, we also recognize the need to really improve the interior experience for consumers as well. So we see this as a really a necessary combination, right? It has to be inviting outside, or that consumer is going to drive right by. But if they stop, they need to have a good experience at your store, and so that is what we are attempting to improve upon with the Lift initiative. So Lift stands for Lighting, Image, and Facilities Transformation. So it's not just about improving the Forecourt image. It's also, again, about providing resources, capital, and expertise to help our Cenex marketers improve the in-store experience for their consumers as well.
So a lot of people think, the most welcoming thing we can do outside is have a great gas price. And yes, that's important. But what are the other components to make the Forecourt welcoming?
Well, we had introduced a new look for the Cenex retail brand, a pretty dramatic change in 2008. And so when we look forward here, we started with, well, what does the image need to look like? Are we talking a complete change, a complete dramatic do-over, so to speak? Or do we have a good solid foundation and just need to modernize and tweak some things? And after doing a pretty extensive inventory of some of the other forecourt images that were out there, as well as looking into consumer trends, we came to the decision that we really didn't need an exhaustive redo of our image, but we had the opportunity to modernize the image and the look through exterior lighting. So we've incorporated a whole suite of LED illumination to both the canopy and the price sign to really give that attractive, modern look to our forecourt. And so part of the Lift initiative, again, is going out there and refurbishing all 1,450 forecourts with all new canopy fascia, a three-dimensional light bar that goes around the canopy, our blue arch backlit portion of our logo, as well as our LED illuminated logo signs, as well as paint, pump graphics, the whole 9 yards on the forecourt. And so that is a 4-year program. We just completed year 1 of that program. And so in that first year, we got about 300 of our locations upgraded. So moving right along nicely in our 4-year plan.
So basically a store a day over 4 years, which either makes it sound really easy or makes it sound really hard, because a store a day, that's some work that goes into managing all of that. What kind of feedback are you getting from folks who have been part of that first year's program?
We've had really pretty overwhelming praise from our customers and consumers alike. They really are taking to the new forecourt image. They enjoy the illumination. And I've gotten that feedback again, both from Cenex marketers as well as consumers driving by. So I think we struck the right balance between, sticking with what works in terms of our brand identity and the core image components, but again, doing a good job of modernizing them and really just making our forecourt look attractive, bright, and welcoming.
And that's particularly important for today's consumer. I know that sounds cliche, but female customers, as you grow that customer base, that's essential for them. And the younger customers, because I'm old enough to remember you went to a gas station because they had 25-cent coffee. Well, you know what 25-cent coffee tastes like? 25-cent coffee. But it's about that experience. It's about, they're going to keep on their old routine until something strikes them. And that could just be the refurbished, the beautiful store that says, hey, I'm going to come here today. And then you have a chance to get them as a loyal customer. What other things are you hearing from those who have joined the program in terms of what do they need to do in terms of modernization and what is part of that package?
So in terms of the forecourt, the remodel portion of it, we've got a 4-year plan. All the sites are essentially scheduled at some point throughout those 4 years. We've communicated that schedule out to our marketers. And so from that perspective, we're just going to continue to march and execute our plan to get all 1,450 of our stores done within the next 3 years. So we've taken some of the guesswork out of it, at least as much as we can. And we're supported by some fantastic vendors, construction companies, the image providers, the image vendors. So thankfully, there's been quite a bit of supply chain disruption and quite a bit of delays with certain products. Thankfully, we've been able to avoid that, I think, through both having some real solid industry partnerships, but also just buying things at the right time, making sure that we're looking forward and avoiding any of these any of these delays that we've seen in the marketplace.
It's difficult, I know, for a lot of retailers to compare year to year, given what the last 2 years have been like. And then you throw in other things like you mentioned, the supply shortage of everything, including labor. But I would imagine that once a store goes through the transformation, that it also addresses some of the challenges that everybody faces, which is labor shortage. That when you're in one of these newly lifted stores, that it lifts spirits within the store, including people who want to work there.
I couldn't agree with you more. One core tenet of the Cenex brand is that our stores are locally owned and operated. So they're owned by people who live in those communities. And there's a lot of pride of ownership of Cenex locations because they know that they're places where the community can count on them. And throughout the pandemic, we saw even more consumers relying on their local store for things that maybe they didn't otherwise. And so for us to come out of the pandemic with this sort of momentum, I think really serves us and our communities well.
Yeah, you hear some stories. One of the ones they teach you in business class is how IBM, when the Depression hit, spent more on R&D. They doubled down, and when they came out of the Depression in the 30s, 40s, IBM was more of a force to be reckoned with. They they kept moving, and they saw their vision, and they went for it. And it reminds me of what you're talking about here, where it has been a difficult couple of years on a lot of levels, but moving through with a 4-year plan, I think shows a commitment to the communities, shows a commitment to the customers, and it shows a commitment to the stores that are part of the operating network. What are the kind of stories that you're hearing from folks who have gone through the remodels, the LIFT program?
We're hearing great stories. I mean, all the way from, consumers sending messages saying that they're enjoying their new stores in their communities to, we're getting local press when these new stores open up. The local newspapers and radio stations have been involved in some of these grand openings that are occurring. And so, we really are delighted with, again, the energy that we've been able to generate in a positive fashion through some really challenging times for communities. And so if this can be one of the positive things that occurs in the communities and Cenex can be a part of that, we are all for that. And we're really excited to share those stories and to share in their excitement.
And when you go through a remodel, there's a changes is sometimes not embraced, particularly if there are costs associated with change. So how do you work with those who are a little reluctant to move along with your vision of the future? What sort of incentives or partnerships do you create to help them go through the change?
Yeah, I think, we've talked quite a bit about the halo image and what we've done on the Forecourt, but the other part of the LIFT initiative is this support for in-store improvements and in-store remodels. And I think really that's where our LIFT program differentiates from other programs that are out there. So we offer 0% financing for qualified interior improvements in our C-stores. And that has generated a variety of different projects from their scope, right? Some projects are complete store rebuilds where they're literally knocking the previous store to the ground and constructing a whole new building. To more minor upgrades, like maybe a bathroom remodel or putting in some reach-in coolers. But at the end of the day, I think it goes back to one of the comments I made at the beginning, which is it has to be more than a forecourt. It can't just be that. It has to be that. It has to be attractive, appealing, modern. Um, but you have to follow that up with a solid in-store experience. And so I think that's what the interior portion of the Lift initiative allows our marketers to do. Capital is tough to come by. The cost of borrowing money, while it may be relatively low, that's still a big hurdle for many small business owners to cross. And so by offering 0% interest financing, and also controlling that whole loan from start to finish, that all happens at CHS. We think that we've created a really simple to follow process for our customers to follow, and we also think that by providing them these interior remodel resources, that not only are we going to be improving the exterior and the forecourt, but really delivering on that in-store experience that we know that today's consumers are craving.
Yeah, and what I stress when I talk to reporters is the good news is the value of convenience has never been higher, and that is absolutely what convenience retailers sell and have hopefully perfected and will continue to perfect. But the downside is everyone else also wants to be in convenience too. So it really is about how do you continue to move forward, because the customer will never say, I want less convenience. And when you have a customer looking for more and more and more, you got to keep evolving. And I think the Lift program is an example of how the industry is moving forward to continue to meet all the needs that customers want. Not just products, not just great service, but the whole experience, because that's where you see that customers want to spend their money, when they have a great experience. So anything else you want to suggest for retailers who are looking at the program or getting more involved with CHS and Cenex?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, these programs, the Lift Initiative, the Halo remodel on the forecourt, as well as the in-store loan program, are available to not only existing Cenex marketers, but also marketers who are new to the brand. So absolutely would love to, encourage anybody out there who is a store owner who is considering switching brands to look at some of the resources that come with the Cenex brand, and not only in relation to the Lift initiative, but also our staff of C-store consultants. We really feel like we want to partner with our Cenex marketers and really make them successful. Cenex is a brand that owns refineries, and we sell gas, and there's other brands out there with that same model. But our commitment to making sure that our marketers are successful inside and outside, I think, is what sets us apart. And so again, certainly would encourage any store operators out there that are looking for another brand to really investigate Cenex and look into how we can help them succeed.
So if there's one thing that people like to see before they join something, is they like to see, wow, this was successful. This is reality. This isn't theory. So can you share any case studies or examples where we've seen success in the market with Lift, and it is lifting sales, it's lifting spirits, it's lifting profits?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got so many examples to share. But one that comes to mind was a rather large-scale project that our business partner Synergy Cooperative underwent in Cumberland, Wisconsin. And so the CEO of Synergy Cooperative was thinking about doing a remodel for some time, and trying to figure out what the right solution was. Was it remodeling what was there? Was it tearing it down and building a totally new store? And they decided to do a complete rebuild after quite a bit of investigation. And so again, completely rebuilt store with new large bathrooms. The countertops were redone. Really nice modern cabinetry, open air coolers, a nice seating area for customers. So that to me would be a great example of a large scale project that was financed through our 0% in-store loan program. But it's not all large projects either. That's not what this is limited to. There was another example of a store of ours in Walker, Minnesota, that did a little bit smaller renovation. So they redid some countertops and, kind of redid the schema inside the store. But they kept the existing footprint, and they just made some adjustments inside. And so our stores are not cookie cutter. We'll be the first to admit it. And for us, that could be a challenge. But that's why we've designed this program with the type of flexibility that we have, because we know that the types of projects our operators are going to want to pursue are going to vary because our stores vary. And so we think that this program gives the flexibility to our marketers to perform the sort of upgrade that best suits them.
And we do know that every demographic, you talk about demographic, whether it's age, whether it's some other makeup, there are so many variations within there, and they may vary by a mile or two depending upon the market where the store is. So I would imagine that the challenge and the opportunity is to allow the customization, because it really it allows somebody to totally buy in. Because they're able to, as much as possible, say, this is my store because I know my market.
That's exactly right. And there is so much difference in the markets that we're in. And part of this also has to do with these kind of blurring channel lines that we're seeing in our industry. So we talked a little bit about that before. A convenience store is not just selling convenience items. And those lines, again, have been blurred. And so I think it allows our marketers to take a look at their competitors, whether those are coffee stores, whether those are quick serve retail businesses, whether there's a hardware store in town or not. I mean, all these things can be considered, and our stores can be tailored to best meet the needs of their community.
Yeah, and also there have been a lot of changes in how people perceive convenience in terms of looking at curbside, looking at delivery, looking at online ordering for maybe in-store pickup or things like that. But also when you look at a program and modernizing your offer, it kind of sets you up as well as you can be set up for that future, because when people are looking at things that are changing the game, there's a whole big aspect of what do you look like? How do you act like? And does that image look like something that could deliver on something that is very new or forward looking? So is there a way to take, and not to scare you because I know a store a day is a lot, but as you go through this process for the next 3 years, you're also setting these stores up to a certain extent for how they can continue to evolve as customer demands evolve.
That's absolutely correct. And I think that that's our ongoing challenge, is to support the Cenex network in helping them understand what is coming next. What is that next opportunity for consumers, whether that's self-checkout in convenience stores or whether that is integrating some sort of mobile order platform. Those are all things that we have the expertise to consult on. Not only that, but we have a lot of third-party relationships and partnerships throughout the industry that we can leverage to really help provide our stores with fantastic service.
Well, thank you, Akhtar. What's important is not just knowing what the program's all about on a theoretical basis, but learn about how it's actually being implemented out in the field. And for that conversation, we're joined by Kyle Knutson, who is CEO of Synergy Cooperative, and he has a store in Cumberland, Wisconsin. And they're using the Lift program, and it is yielding big benefits right now. So welcome, Kyle.
Hello.
Can you describe the store in Cumberland, what it was like before, and how it transformed as part of this revitalization?
Yeah, our Cumberland store, we were in the community for several years in a lease space in a store that we had outgrown, and it didn't really fit the vision of where we wanted to go in the future. It was a branded store, however, it was not branded Cenex. We were at the point of making a decision. Do we renew our lease and renew the brand agreement with a different brand, or do we renew our lease and do we brand it with Cenex, or do we just walk away from this facility and start brand new and brand it Cenex? So that was the tough decision. We made the choice to build new and brand with Cenex and take advantage of the Lift initiative.
And I'm sure that's the type of thought process that thousands of retailers go through. When a lease comes up or something like that, what were some of the priorities that you looked at in making this decision to go forward with the Cenex Lift program, and how did they manifest themselves in the new look store?
We were really focused on trying to make sure, if we were going to make a sizable investment in any one of our locations, that we wanted it to be what the customers are looking for today. And with the Lift initiative offering 0% financing for 5 years on some of the things, we were able to take advantage of that and build it maybe bigger and better and nicer than we typically would have.
And what were some of the things that were going through your head in the process? Obviously, change can be terrifying, but when you see change and how things are so much more modern, so much better, it's got to be invigorating. But what was the thought process that as this was going on?
We started, thinking about, if we were going to build a new store, what would we do? What would it look like? Where would it be? How big does it need to be? It was going to be drastically different than the current facility we were operating, and not only was it going to be drastically different with just the footprint of the store, the square footage, the multiple canopies for fueling, large bathrooms. We just wanted to make sure we did everything right, and we didn't want to be in a remodel phase 2 years from now because we missed something.
Yeah, and earlier I know there was discussion about local and the importance of local, and the importance of feeling like part of the community. And when you're working with a national brand, there are ways to also feel like you're part of a national brand, yet feel like you're part of the community as well. Do you have any examples of how customers really embraced the community feel of the new renovation?
The customers really embraced the transition from the brand we had to the Cenex brand today. The community of Cumberland had a Cenex brand station there several years ago, and it is part of our cooperative. And our members are a lot of farmer roots, if you will, and the Cenex brand is important to them, and patronage is important to them, and the cooperative system is important to them. So it just really fits well, and we are in total control of how we merchandise the store and what products we sell, and we really focused on local meat and cheese vendors, down to maybe the guy that has his local honey business. So there's just honey, maple syrup, just plenty of local options there in our store.
Now, I don't want you to give any trade secrets or anything like that, but do you have any broad metrics you can share about what it's done for your business in terms of the lift, and that pun is intentional, to sales, both inside the store or at the pump?
That's a good question. We're comparing two different facilities, although same road, 2 blocks down, maybe 4 blocks down from where the old store was. But we're seeing strong growth in fuel sales, whether it's gasoline or diesel, and gallons sold. The biggest difference between our former store to the current store is we have a branded food concept now, where we did not have food in the former store. So that is growing at a far rapid pace, farther than our gallon growth at this point. But it's really not even comparable to where our old location was.
And this growth is happening at a time of a pandemic when there's headwinds all around. You have fewer people driving, at least for extended periods of time. You had fewer people getting grab and go food. So the any type of growth, we heard when in the early days of the pandemic that flat is the new up. So when up is up, so much better. Any pieces of advice that you would have for folks that what should they look at if they're looking at doing something like you? What 1, 2, or 3 tips would you say? Look at these things when you make your decision.
When making the decision, I think one of the most important things that we did is number one, we focused on curb appeal. You've got to get them to want to turn into your driveway. And that's from 1,000, 1,500 feet away. That was our number one goal, was to make it attractive from a distance, to make them want to say, let's check that out. Because if you can't get them to turn in your driveway, they're not going to buy that gallon or spend that dollar.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today, Kyle, and continued success in the store in Cumberland and at your other stores. So thanks once again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And let me throw it back to Akhtar for the last word. Where do you learn more about Cenex and the Lift program?
Yeah, if folks are already part of the Cenex brand family, they are free to contact their sales representative with any additional questions that they have. But if you're not part of the Cenex family today and you're interested in joining, please visit us at cenex.com/lift to find out all about the Cenex brand and the Lift initiative and how it can help serve your business.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Akhtar. And for those who are regulars of Convenience Matters, if you want to subscribe, please do so. You'll get our news weekly, and we love more fans. So thanks for listening today, and see you soon. Or better yet, hear you soon.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.